In this video, we are taking the brand new Radiomaster MT12, and I'm going to be trying to set it up on my rear-wheel drive drift car. We're going to be installing the ER5CI receiver into it. Can it actually work? It's a budget-oriented radio at the $130 price, but it has a lot of features and everything that could make it good for drifting. Is this a good budget drift entry radio? Let's find out. If you're new to the channel, welcome. My name is Troy. This is Roadside RC. You'll tend to find me bashing and crawling and drifting and racing, plus doing product review videos and how-tos. And one aspect of the hobby that I really love is RC drifting. And so let's get into setting this controller up by putting the receiver in, getting the wires plugged in. I have my Futaba receiver in here with both channel 1, 2, and 3 plugged in so that I can control the gyro with the receiver. So I'm going to transfer all of those over here. Word of warning, Radiomaster comes from the drone side, which means channel 1 is not steering. Channel 1 is actually throttle. So unless you actually change that in the controller itself, which it is changeable, unless you do that, it is actually going to be channel 1 is throttle, channel 2 is steering, and then we'll figure out which one of these other channels. I'm going to start with channel 3 for the gyro control. All right, well, I am absolutely super duper confused. So if I take the receiver and I plug in just the ESC, I can power on the car. The receiver blinks for a minute. I don't know if you can see it there. It's blinking red. And it takes it a minute before it goes solid. Once it goes solid, throttle works, and I can actually calibrate the controller and the ESC together, so that's fine. Obviously steering doesn't work because it's not plugged in. I plug in the steering, the gyro sees signal, the gyro blinks, the gyro initializes, and then at that point I have steering. I have throttle, I have steering, the gyro's not seeing any input, so it's not actually working, but it's at least passing the signal through so that I have steering. Got a little jitter and all that, but that's obviously something we need to program. But here's the crazy thing, okay? Throttle works, steering works. I do not have the gyro signal wire plugged in yet. If I power it off, leave everything plugged in like it was just working, power it back on, the receiver says that it's immediately connected. There's no blinking, there's no waiting. The gyro stays blinking red. It never initializes, and then the thing, I have no throttle, and I have no steering. And I have no idea why it is doing this. Check it out, it drifts. It'll actually do the thing. All right, let me show you what part of this I actually do have figured out. And you come into the model side, you go over on pages to the inputs. I came down here to input number 5, honestly, just because it was past some of these other ones and I didn't want to screw it up. A long hold on it brings up a little click there. You can hit edit. I then came down and said what I wanted its source to be. So you can click once, and then it'll give you a little, as you roll through, you can hit the different things. Well, what I did is I just picked T3, which is this switch up here. They're all labeled so you can see them pretty easily. I just chose T3, and then I left absolutely everything else in here alone. Go back out here. This is on page 5 of 12 for the inputs. I come over here to the mixes, and I said channel 3 because that's where I have the gyro plugged in over here. It's channel 3. Channel 3, you click in here, and it says you have to hold it. I don't know why it does this. If you come in here and you click it once, it wants to duplicate, and that's just crazy. I don't know what it's doing there. All right, so you come on here to channel 3, you hold, you edit, and it says, all right, mix name source is T3. So now that what we did is on the previous page, we said that input 5 is just going to be the trim. So once we've identified the trim, then what we're doing is we're connecting channel 3 to that trim T3. So again, hold, edit, come down here and it says source T3. So now I've told it that this input is off of T3 and channel 3 should be connected to T3. And then at that point, when you come all the way back out here to the main screen,
minimum trim reached.
You can actually hit that and it will show, you can actually see the little knob go back and forth there. So you can set it positive and negative. You can limit it to where it can only go one way. Positive and negative is awesome because for the Futaba gyros, that lets you get into AVCS mode if you want it. I can then now actually have the gyro set up and the gyro works, but I still have this problem. If I have everything plugged in, when I hit the power button, nothing works. The only time it works is if I have only the ESC plugged in first. My guess, I'm wondering that maybe there's something about like a startup sequence. I think there's something there. What I'm going to try to do is go in here and actually switch channel 1 and channel 2. Because again, this controller is a little bit odd. They come from the drone world. So for them, channel 1 is throttle. For the rest of the surface world, channel 1 is steering. I'm going to go in just like I set up that channel 3 now. And I'm going to go in and swap. I'm going to come in here to model. I'm going to leave the inputs alone because throttle connected to throttle, steering connected to steering, that's right. But the mixes say channel 1 is throttle, channel 2 is steering. I'm going to swap these two and see if that happens to make it work. I think that was it, folks. I think that was it. Watch this. We're going to power on. And after I power on, you notice the receiver takes a second to connect. It takes a second. After the receiver finally connects, the gyro initializes. Ha ha ha! Look at this. Everything's plugged in and it works. Steering works, but is reversed. Right is left, left is right. Throttle works, but it's also reversed. Forward is back and back and forth. So we need to reverse everything? But no, we're there. I think we're getting there. Throttle, immediate, easy fix. I just recalibrated the controller and the ESC, normal ESC programming method. And now, everything works as it should for throttle. So that is great. Now I need to work on reversing the steering. Relatively simple operation to reverse the steering as well. So we're now under, if we go under model, and we go all the way over to outputs, which is channel 7 or menu 7 for me. Hold on channel 1 because we've now made channel 1 steering. Edit, and then direction down here is inverse. So it was just dot dot dot, dash dash dash. So now I've swapped it over to where direction is inversed, and now right is right and left is left. Okay, so we're getting somewhere. We're actually making progress here. Look at us. So at this point, throttle's good. Steering gyro works, but I get a little bit of that. Everything's like it's a little scared. Like occasionally, and it's really interesting, you watch it go on cycles. It'll sit here and it'll stop, and then it takes some amount of time, and then it comes back around and it starts doing it again. This is clearly something with the input that the controller is giving into the receiver and the receiver, the gyro, the servo, because it hasn't done this before. And this gyro and servo pair have been together now for quite a while. They didn't do this. And what's interesting is it doesn't affect driving at all. Let me go drive it again to make sure. So yes, confirming, absolutely no issue while driving. It doesn't do it at all, doesn't make any kind of issue, or at least if it does it, I can't tell. So we come back here on the table, and it's here we go. We're wobbling a little bit again. We're scared a little bit again. So I am not sure. I can still keep messing with this in this controller and see if is it like a pulse width thing? Is it just how it communicates? Is there something like that I can do? Maybe it's actually even just a setting in the servo itself, because this is a programmable servo. Maybe I can do something with it to help it. I don't know. If you're smarter about this than I am and you have information, then leave it down in the comments below. I'd love to see it. Okay, now I have the throttle curves figured out. Check this out. Okay, so under model, go over first to number 8, which is curves. And you can see what I've done here with curve number 1. So on the negative side of it, I just made it 1-to-1. Here, this is what it looks like. When you get curve, when you go in, the curves are just blank, straight across. And if you apply a kind of curve like this to any one of your channels, guess what? Nothing happens, because no matter what you do along that line, it never changes anything in the y-axis. If you come into it, you can actually tell it how many points you want. So you can see how there's only 5 points right there. There's 1 on each end, 2 in the middle, 1 in the center. As you increase the number of points, it just keeps increasing the number of dots there, and you can go all the way up to something 17. That's a little much, a little more than what I was going to use. So you can use some different amount depending on what you're doing. And then when you come on down here, this little thing pops up. You see how this point is highlighted, and it says 0.1. X is -100, which is way over here. Y is 0. Now what you do is, if you're at that one, you hit it, and then you can move that point up or down. You see that? You just roll it, and you can make that individual point go up and down. And that way you can create a custom curve, whatever you want for whatever you're doing. Sweet. So what I did is I made a custom curve here in curve number 2. I put in, what is it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, probably 11 data points there, because there's 1 in the center. I put 11 data points in. On the reverse side, I just left it absolutely straight, 1-to-1. Because who needs to put any kind of throttle exponential into the reverse? On the forward side, I've just made up my own little exponential curve here. And the cool thing is I can come in here, and I can come down, and I can come in, and I can say, all right, so it says X is 11, I made it 6. X is 33, I made it 17. X is 56, I made it 30. And then X is 78, I made it 57. And you can move those individual points up or down, and that will create your individual throttle curve. And again, I can come back in here. Let's see, if I take it from 10 points now, and I give it more points, it just gives me more points along that curve that I can go ahead and tweak on. Loving it, loving it, loving it. Very, very cool. So now that I have a curve created, back in here to model, and I go over here to the outputs. All right, so channel 2 is my throttle. I come down and I hit S, I hit edit, and then down here you will see it says curve, and you will see that curve is now on CV1. Before, the curve was on, oh, it's all the way down here, it's at the very, very bottom. The curve was on CNT. No idea what CNT means, if it's control, if it's constant, no idea what CNT is supposed to mean, but that was what we're going to call normal. I'm going to scroll up and select CV1. And now that throttle curve that I had is on there, and I can actually see it. If I like steady pull the throttle trigger, you can see the output is like slow, 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 bang, and then it hits full throttle. And on the reverse side, it's just very steady. The more I push it, very steady it comes in. But on the forward side, it's like nothing, 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 nothing. Woo! There we go, there's full throttle. So it works. The question we started this whole video with: can this MT12 controller work in a rear-wheel drive drift car? Can it control a gyro? Can you put some throttle exponential in it? Can you tune it to the nth degree? Yes, yes, and yes, it does work. It is a little bit finicky, right? I will say that some of my more base level Futabas, my Noble NB4, a little bit easier user interface, a little bit easier to do, learning curve a little bit easier, graphic interface a little bit easier to use. No doubt, like those things are just easier, but they're also easier because we're used to them on the Surface side. That's kind of how things have been. We've been kind of spoon-fed the very easy way of doing things. This is different. This is different. And we had some really big learnings along the way, but the truth is it looks like this is also a little bit more powerful. So very excited to see. I'm very excited to see other people get this in their hands, other people start messing with it and tweaking it and seeing like what really happens, what other opportunities are there. Is there an ability? I have that Futaba GYD 550 in this drift car. Is there an ability to make this MT12 have some like S-bus communication back and forth? Can we start figuring out how to like really unlock the full potential of that GYD 550 with this controller? I don't know if I'm smart enough to do that, but maybe someone out there is. So I'm excited to see this. Can it be used in a drift car? Yes, it can. If you're curious about anything else that I've been doing with drifting stuff, there's going to be a Drift Tech playlist that pops up over here to your right. Feel free to check it out there. If you have any questions about what I did today, leave them down in the video comments, and I'll be happy to answer them. Talk to you later. Thank you.